Alright guys, I wanted to show you a quick update at the start of this video about this clutch with the lightning pieds, potential clown lightning pieds. Unfortunately, I did not hit it, so I ended up hitting 2 lightning pieds, which are still in their eggs. These are lightning pieds, 100% het clown, and then we hit 2 clown pieds and 1 pied. So the clown pieds actually look fantastic. Let me see if I can get them out here. So here is one. It might be a pastel OD. This looks like an OD. So those are 2 clown pieds. They're 66% het MJ xanthic. And then we have 2 lightning pieds that are 100% het clown. So I wanted to talk about this clutch a little bit in terms of strategy and breeding, because I keep getting comments and questions on older videos about people that want to get into the hobby, or making comments about what they have purchased so far, what they are planning on breeding so far. And this is going to be kind of like my raw take on people and what they're buying and what they should be doing. So with that last lightning pied clutch that I had roughly a month and a half, 2 months ago, they all sold almost immediately. What I sold those for, I believe, I sold lightning pieds, I believe with pied het MJs, and they were all, I think, 50% het clown. I sold pairs of lightning pieds with pied het MJs for like $17.50. And I think I sold male lightning pieds with female pieds. And then I think I sold the female lightning pieds for around the $1,500 range by themselves. And all those babies and all that clutch were 50% het clown. Now these ones are going to be a little more because they're lightning pied 100% het clown. And the clown pieds are 66% het MJ xanthic. So I don't know, maybe I get 2,500 out of those, maybe. I don't know. We'll see what they actually go for. But those are double recessive, hard to get double recessive lightning pieds. And so you guys know lightning pied is MJ xanthic pied. It's a different line of xanthic than VPI or TSK. They're still harder to get than really any other version of an xanthic pied. In xanthic pieds that are het clown, as far as I know, are MJ xanthic pied het clowns, or clown pied het MJ xanthics. I'm the only person to ever sell them in the morph market from the last time I checked. So they're very hard to come by. And at this point, if I'm getting $1,500 to $2,500 a piece for them, I'm making decent money off of them. It's not what I was making a year or two ago off of them, but it's still decent money. You guys that are just getting into this or just starting off, if you're buying pastel Enchi OD, double het hypopieds, and anything of the sort like that, you're going to be in for a rude awakening when you go to try to produce babies and try to sell those babies. Because it is not very easy to hit odds when you're working double hets to double hets, or double hets to visual / hets. Preferably the sire, the male that you purchase, needs to be a visual hypopied with a few genes in him. That way, at the very worst, at the end of the day, the babies will be hets, double hets, triple hets, whatever you're working with. Go look at Morph Market. If you're breeding a double het to a double het and you don't get any visuals, and so all you have is 66% het, 66% het, go look to see what those babies sell for. Before you decide to start buying snakes and producing these babies that you have no idea what you can sell for, look at the best case scenario. Look what a double het Enchi OD hypopied goes for. And look what a 66% double het hypopied goes for, because that would be your worst case scenario, right? You won't hit any of the codoms. And your worst case scenario is you have a normal looking ball python that potentially doesn't even have any recessive genes in it. You could just be producing normals in a clutch like that. See what those sell for, because I guarantee you it's going to cost you more to produce that snake than it would to actually be able to sell it. You're not guaranteed odds with anything. This clutch is a perfect example. I bred a pied double het MJ clown to a clown double het MJ pied. The worst odds I had of hitting any recessive in that clutch was MJ, because neither one was a visual, but I somehow produced two. And I had a 50% chance of hitting pied, and they all came out pied. And I had a 50% chance of hitting clown, and I only got two clowns, which is actually under 50%. There was 5 eggs, so you can't have 50%, but I got under 50%. So the odds of me hitting a MJ Xanthic in that, if it was a het to a het, what is that, 25% if I'm doing my math right? And so I actually got better odds on hitting the MJ Xanthic in that. So you're not guaranteed odds in any of the clutches you produce. There are going to be times where you get better odds. There's going to be times where you get worse odds. There are going to be times when you hit 50-50 right on the button. But you can't, there's still 32,000 plus snakes on Morph Market. They're not getting sold because they're all the same. Even here at the end of the road, when I'm going to be done here in 2 months, I'm still producing those snakes that nobody else has. Nobody else is selling MJ Xanthic pied het clowns. Nobody. Go look at Morph Market. Go look at everything that is MJ Xanthic pied het clown and see who sold them all. It is me. And I'm selling them. They're not in my rack anymore because I'm the only person producing them. Scarcity. Supply and demand. Be smart. Don't go buying snakes that everybody else has and that everybody else is producing and think you're going to sell them. Because at the end of the day, the issue with this hobby, the issue with you guys that do not listen to anybody, is that you can't just produce an infinite amount of snakes. You can't just keep producing snakes that nobody wants to buy. There is way too much overproduction. Unfortunately, that's what happened with COVID when everybody had the extra money and they came in and they just bought thousands of snakes and produced tens of thousands of snakes, and they were all the same. They just assumed that the madness, the euphoria was going to keep going on forever, and it doesn't. However, they are still selling if you produce things that are in high demand and lower supply. I sold that whole entire last clutch in 12 hours. I actually forgot to post the snakes before the video posted at 10 a.m. on a Saturday. And I actually forgot to put them on Morph Market before I posted the video. I hurried up like 2 hours later, put them on Morph Market. They were all sold before I went to sleep that night. This day and age, where there's 32,000 snakes on Morph Market, I sold a whole entire clutch, 7 snakes, in less than 12 hours. I made like $7,000 off of that in 12 hours. Because nobody else has them, and I was realistic with my pricing. Those are real numbers. That's a real event that happened, that occurred. I don't have millions of snakes in here that don't get sold. If you go check people on Morph Market, there are stores with 700 plus snakes, ball pythons in their stores that they're not selling because they produced a bunch of snakes nobody wants, and they're not actually trying to sell them at a realistic price. So don't go buy a double het hypopide with a couple generic codoms and expect that you're going to breed that snake and produce anything worthwhile. It is not in your best interest, if you only have $1,000, to go buy 5 snakes that are all $200 a piece, because they're going to produce snakes that nobody wants. And you probably have very high odds of producing snakes that you will never be able to sell, that you'll probably end up having to give away. You're better off buying 2 snakes, a pair of snakes that have some better genes, $500 a piece. You could probably buy 2 clown pies, to be honest, at that point, and raise them up learn how to take care of the snakes, have one clutch, and see what happens from there. Obviously, if they're just clown pieds, you're going to produce all clown pieds and they're not going to have anything crazy in them. But if they're still $300 in 2-3 years when you produce them, you're still going to make your money back. But I wouldn't go buying a pastel Enchi double het hypo pied and breeding it to a Orange Dream hypo and breeding it to a Mojave pied and breeding it to a double het hypo pied. Like, that pairing is going to get you absolutely nowhere. It's going to lose you a lot of money because you will be taking care of all those adults. You will be buying rodents. You will be spending time cleaning those cages. You will produce 3 to 4 clutches that have a bunch of babies that aren't going to be worth anything. You also have to think timelines. By the time you buy those snakes and they produce eggs and they hatch eggs and you sell those babies, you're 6 months. If you buy adults, 6 months to a year. If you buy babies, 2 to 3 years out before you produce them. So if you're looking at Morph Market now and you look at the recently sold snakes with similar genes and they sold for $200, guess what? Those babies that you're looking to produce are not going to be worth $200. When I was producing these lightning pieds, when I first started doing it, I was getting $5,000 for a female all day, every day. The limited supply that I had, I was getting $5,000 a pop, and I think $3,500 for a male. Now, if I'm getting $1,500, I'm happy. Basically, the price of these snakes dropped by over 60% in like 2 years. Now, again, the euphoria was crazy 2 years ago, and snakes were selling at very high premiums. So that drop was probably more exaggerated than what it would have been normally. But even if they dropped in value by 30%, that's a lot different. Because if you purchased a bunch of snakes expecting to be able to sell the offspring for, let's just say, $500 a piece, and you planned that out for 2 or 3 years that you're going to get $500 a baby on average, and now they're only worth $200 a baby on average, that's a big hit to your pocketbook, and you can't recoup that money. So when you're planning out pairings, if you're doing this for the first time, you need to think about what isn't as readily available and how things will change within a few years. It's inevitable that the values on these snakes are going to go down. They're not going to maintain value ever. There's no snake where the value is going to stay where it is. They're all going to be devalued. And here's why. Supply and demand. And I have said that phrase so many times over the last 6 months that I am very worried that some of you still don't understand that. Supply and demand. These snakes are produced every single year. There are tens of thousands of them being produced. Every single year, these snakes are less and less scarce. The lightning pieds are less and less scarce. Plus, this is a side note, you also have to factor in where the economy is in the United States. But these things are less and less valuable every year because more and more of them are made. If there's only 5 lightning pieds available 3 years ago when I produced them, I got all the money for them and whatever I asked for them because nobody else had them. But now more people are popping up with them, so it drives the price down. If I was the only person still selling them, I'm sure I could get more than $1,500, $2,000 a piece for them because there wouldn't be any other ones available. But there are, so the prices come down. So nothing you're producing today or buying today is going to retain its value tomorrow. You have to keep that in mind when you're planning out your projects. If you're think about recessives at this point, hypo, I wouldn't touch albino. So please, my opinion, do not plan on breeding albino on purpose. I think it devalues anything you're trying to do. An OD pied is probably worth more money than an OD albino pied, to be honest. So stay away from albino. But hypo, pied at this point, even clown to some extent, if you're just producing basic snakes, they're not good enough. Like, they need to be mixed with other things. In this last clutch of clowns, I produced a black pastel clown, and I started the auction at $100, and that's basically what it's at right now. We're like an hour before the auction ends. I'm probably not gonna get more than that, which is fine. I didn't plan on getting more than that, but that's $100. That's it. I mean, like, I'm not getting any more for that snake than $100. So think about that. Like, these snakes aren't appreciating in value. They're only going to go down. So please keep that in mind when you're planning out your projects.